the level of privilege that he has shown, if you like, through most of his life is the same level of privilege that the whole of the royal family show, in as that we are different to you. Our rules are not your rules. We will do it our way. And it's the thing they normally say, isn't it? We'll never explain and never complain. I would just make them more accountable. For example, Duchy of Lancaster, Duchy of Cornwall, which they're lovely titles, but what they are actually two huge property portfolios owned by the sitting king and the sitting Prince of Wales. Yeah. We don't know how much it makes. We get an idea. We don't know. We know they don't pay much tax on it, if at all. It's the epitome of the privileged triangle. They are the top of it, and there's a huge swathe. Duke of Westminster, Earl of Argyll, Caithness, loads of others who all benefit from that privilege. They all live off it. You know, we don't pay inheritance tax. We won't do this. They're above the law, Sheila, and that should not be the case in this 21st century.
The clip that has everyone talking comes from LBC, where a caller named Peter delivered one of the boldest, most brutally honest assessments of the royal family that's been aired on live radio in years. His words, sharp yet truthful, cut straight through the layers of PR polish that usually protect the monarchy from real accountability. And when Peter said, "They're above the law, Sheila," it's the epitome of privilege. You could practically feel the discomfort ripple through every royal defender listening. Because for once, someone dared to say what millions of people have been thinking, but too afraid to voice aloud. What makes Peter's call so powerful is not just his frustration, it's the truth backing every word. The royal family has long lived in a bubble where consequence doesn't seem to reach them. While ordinary people are crushed under the weight of justice, taxation, and public scrutiny, royals glide past scandals, shielded by wealth, power, and an establishment that bends over backward to protect their image. And the most glaring example of that is none other than Prince Andrew, the man whose name became synonymous with royal disgrace, yet somehow still enjoys the safety net of privilege that no average person could ever dream of. Peter wasn't rude, he wasn't unhinged, he was fed up, like so many of us who watched the Andrew saga unfold in disbelief. Remember the way the palace handled it? Silence, deflection, carefully worded statements about stepping back from duties. And that infamous interview, the "I don't sweat" moment that has gone down as one of the most bizarre and humiliating public relations disasters in royal history. Yet, despite it all, Andrew faced no criminal charges, no trial, and no lasting consequences. The palace protected him, the institution circled the wagons, and the press, for the most part, played along until public outrage made silence impossible. So when Peter called in and said this was the epitome of privilege, he wasn't exaggerating. He was pointing out the rot at the core of the system. The idea that being born into a certain family grants you immunity from the same moral standards the rest of us must live by. And that's not just unfair. It's a direct insult to every person who believes in justice, fairness, and equality before the law. It's the same hypocrisy that's been laid bare again and again. When Prince Harry and Meghan Sussex decided to break free, the establishment acted like they'd committed treason. The British press went on a witch hunt, dissecting every move they made, turning love and independence into scandals. Yet, when Prince Andrew was accused of far worse, real, serious allegations, the outrage from those same corners was muted. Suddenly, it was all about respecting privacy and preserving the dignity of the institution. Where was that energy when Meghan was relentlessly attacked for things as small as holding her baby bump or closing her own car door? Peter's words sting because they expose the double standard. The royals love to talk about duty and service, but when it comes to accountability, the curtain drops. They expect admiration without transparency, loyalty without honesty. But the public is waking up. People like Peter are no longer afraid to challenge the narrative. They see the contrast, how Harry and Meghan, who've done nothing but speak their truth and serve communities globally, are demonized, while Andrew, who represents the very worst of privilege, is quietly shielded. Sheila Fogarty, the host, handled the call with professionalism. You could see her listening carefully, aware that Peter was channeling something raw and real. It wasn't a rant, it was a reckoning. Peter wasn't attacking for the sake of outrage. He was pleading for integrity. When he said the royals were above the law, it wasn't jealousy talking. It was disappointment. Disappointment that in 2025, with all our talk of equality and reform, there's still a hierarchy so untouchable that justice can't even reach its gates. Let's be clear, Peter's comments weren't anti-monarchy for the sake of it. They were pro-accountability, and that's what defenders of the institution always miss. You can't demand respect while refusing responsibility. The monarchy wants to be loved, admired, and publicly funded. But when the people paying the bills ask questions, they're told to mind their business. That arrogance is exactly what Peter was calling out. And he's right to, because when power goes unchallenged, it becomes corruption, whether it wears a crown or not. We've seen this play out time and time again. The institution rushes to protect its own, but selectively. When the tabloids attacked Meghan for daring to be intelligent, outspoken, and biracial, the palace said nothing. When racist dog whistles filled the headlines, the silence from the royal courtiers was deafening. But when Andrew needed cover, suddenly the palace moved swiftly, quietly managing damage, leaning on connections, and ensuring that he never saw the inside of a courtroom. That's the epitome of privilege Peter was talking about, a system where morality is optional for the elite, but mandatory for the rest. And what's tragic is how normalized it's become. So many royal defenders will dismiss Peter's point, saying it's tradition, or it's how things have always been. But that's exactly the problem. How things have always been has allowed men like Andrew to escape accountability and driven people like Meghan to flee for peace. The double standard is baked into the royal structure, a hierarchy that demands silence from its victims and deference from its citizens. What makes Peter's call historic is that it captured this collective frustration at a time when, honestly, the British public is starting to see the cracks in the monarchy's golden image. People are questioning why, in the middle of a cost of living crisis, taxpayers are funding lavish renovations for royal estates. They're questioning why some royals are applauded for symbolic charity visits, while others, like Harry and Meghan, who've built schools, funded mental health programs, and supported veterans' initiatives, are vilified. The hypocrisy is, well, unbearable. Peter's voice represents a turning tide, a moment where everyday citizens are, reclaiming the right to hold power to account. The royals can no longer hide behind centuries of tradition. Social media, independent journalism, and brave callers like Peter are pulling back the curtain. And what's being revealed is not grandeur, but human failure. A system clinging to privilege while pretending to serve. It's time to admit what Peter made crystal clear. The royal family's immunity from real consequences is incompatible with the idea of modern democracy. You can't have accountability for some and exemption for others. You can't lecture the public on values while harbouring individuals who embody their opposite. And you certainly can't preach about service and integrity while using influence to dodge scrutiny. Prince Harry saw this hypocrisy and walked away. Meghan saw it and refused to play along. They're building a life rooted in transparency and purpose, something that should inspire admiration, not hate. And yet the media, desperate to preserve the royal myth, continues to spin their independence as betrayal. That's the same media that's conveniently quiet about Andrew's scandals. So when Peter calls it, the epitome of privilege, he's not just describing the royal family. He's describing the entire ecosystem that enables their untouchability. Peter's call really deserves to be remembered because, honestly, it wasn't just about Andrew. It was about a system rotting from within, where silence is rewarded and truth is, well, punished. Where the public's trust is exploited in the name of tradition. And where, let's be honest, accountability only applies to those outside palace walls.